So I want to thank Matt Swenson from Marine Traffic, who has volunteered to give our collective a 30-minute demonstration of the services offered by his marine traffic offer. I am Dr. Leong Ying, creator of our collective, a global alliance of activists, artists, and artisans. We have a lot of activities, specifically in Africa and Asia, and through our various members and partnership, we are trying to launch ourselves into the commodity trade and business. And that's how I originally contacted Marine Traffic, used their service, and I'm now here to see what their pay service can offer. I want to thank Matt for this. I also have my colleague, Sam, who's actually based in Hawaii, and he's like 4 a.m. So I want to thank him for coming on board to see this demonstration. So Matt, I'm going to give you the platform, sir, and I'm going to record this session. I'm going to let you share the screen so you can share any things on your computer for the demonstration. That'd be greatly appreciated. I'll mute myself unless I have questions. So Sam, you can mute yourself, Sam, so you avoid any background music. So thank you, Matt. All over to you. Thank you.
Great, thank you, gentlemen. Let me go ahead and share my screen and we can talk about marine traffic. You should be able to see it now. Great. So what you see here is our homepage at marinetraffic.com. What we specialize in at Marine Traffic is tracking vessels using AIS data. So all commercial shipping vessels have AIS transponders aboard. They provide basic data points such as the lat-long positional data of the vessel, the speed, course, heading, previous destination, and upcoming port call for the vessel as well. And we collect these data points in 2 ways. One would be our proprietary terrestrial network. So what I'm going to do here is just filter out all the vessels and pull up our terrestrial stations so you can see where they're positioned around the world. These have a range of approximately 60 nautical miles. So if you're familiar with our platform and have been using it before, anytime you log into your account and you see vessels close to shore, we're able to provide the details for that vessel, the AIS data, free. And that's because we're picking it up through our own network. For anything going transatlantic, trans-Pacific, that falls outside of that range, I should say, we have 3 satellite providers, Orbcomm, Spire, Exact Earth, who supplement our feed to provide those positions for those vessels. So to access that data, you do need a paid subscription. Under the Solutions tab, and under plans and pricing, you can see what those solutions are. The Professional, Professional Plus, and Global Satellite. The biggest differences between those being the amount of vessels you can track at any given time using satellite coverage. You can see the Professional Plus is up to 10, whereas Professional has 1 and Global Satellite has unlimited, meaning you get the full satellite capabilities. Otherwise, you can have a satellite on for up to 10 vessels at a time, and you can toggle it on or off. I'll take you through that process momentarily. So I understand you guys are looking to track shipments specifically. Would this be containerized trade or would this be bulk trade? Just so I can understand, where to take you from here.
Well, our first line of business that we're trying to do is commodity trade, specifically oil and gas. We're very, very influential in Nigeria. I visited Nigeria in 2018 and I met NNPC. And so I've been building a foundation there. We're trying to, as you know, because of the war in Europe, oil and gas commodities has gone really whacked, and China and a lot of where I'm very, very strong connectivity are also looking at sourcing other alternative oil and gas. So that's one main bulk trade that I'm specifically with our members trying to do. But there are other commodities in both food and precious metal that we're also working on as well between South America. But the predominant business right now is the bulk cargo for oil and gas between Africa and Asia that we're trying to establish. Thank you.
Gotcha. So there's a couple of ways you can track those specific movements. You can do so just by filtering the vessels up here. And we'll just do anything that is an oil tanker. And there you can see the positions of those vessels and where they are around the world. So you can dive into more granularity for the vessel and their movements very easily. Just by clicking a vessel, for example, I'm able to see the vessel name, the type, and LPG tanker here, the previous port call and the upcoming port call heading towards Singapore. If I go to this vessel specific details page, what I'll see is more general information about the vessel, including the speed it's moving. You can see 12 knots. We provide a calculated ETA on top of the reported ETA of the vessel as well. How much distance it has to go, and more general information about the vessel. Some of which would be important would be the deadweight tonnage, the gross tonnage, the amount the vessel can carry, essentially. And you can see more information along ownership, more general data there. And the latest position of the vessel received 15 minutes ago in the Red Sea. We received this position via satellite, so you would need to toggle on the satellite to collect that data for this vessel. But then scrolling down, you can see even more information about recent port calls, basically where the vessel has been. And just scrolling down, more summary about the vessel's movements there. So if I wanted to dive into this vessel and get more information about its position history, I would click there. If I want to see the recent port calls, what I can do is just dive into it. And here I'll be able to view the vessel's movements from port to port, get an understanding of how long it's spending in each port. And if I include the draft information, which should be available under here, I can see how much, or I can start to deduce how much cargo this vessel is carrying at any given point based off that data. So I can use this spreadsheet here, customize it using the columns here, and I can move them accordingly to position them in a way that makes sense for me and my colleagues. From there, I can go ahead and export that data and share that with my colleagues so we can start to run analysis on a specific vessel at the vessel level. There are other ways. You can use the Explore tab function up here to track movements for vessels in a more holistic way. I can go ahead and I can go to a specific port of interest. Let's just go to Singapore, for example. And I just want the port here. There we go. And from this page, I can see Singapore port. I can see the expected arrivals here. I can see more general information about the port and what's going on there, including terminal level data. So I can track vessels into specific terminals and have an understanding of who is working with that vessel, who's moving that oil. And just scrolling down here, more information about those terminals, congestion level data about the port, and recent arrivals and departures. But what I'd be most interested in here is expected arrivals, and I can view the full list. And what it's going to do is it's going to populate for vessels that are expected to arrive at Singapore, meaning they have Singapore as their destination port in their systems. And what I can do is add filters for either a specific port the vessel originated from, or if I want to get even more technical, I'll do just tankers. I'll add the filter there. Next, I'll go ahead and add the vessel type. Let's see if I can limit it down. Type detailed. And I'll go ahead and do crude oil, LPG, anything with oil in it. And I'll go ahead and add those filters. So now it's going to filter by just those vessel types as well. And now, say if I was looking for total crude flow from Africa to Singapore, I could do origin port country or origin port or a specific origin port even. And from there, I'm able to go ahead and filter by where it's coming from, essentially. Where is this tanker coming from? and I can start to deduce how much oil is being moved from one area to another area. Once you build that spreadsheet out, you can go ahead and export that data. But I will tell you, if you're looking to track cargo flows, we've recently been acquired by Kepler, who may be a better source for tracking total commodity movements, whereas that's where they specialize in, and we specialize in the vessel movements. So another good way to use us would just be to track a specific movement. So say I know I have interest in the cargo aboard the Wealthy Bay here. What I would do is I would go to that vessel specific page. It's already arrived in Singapore, Anchorage, and I can create notifications for this vessel on certain aspects of its journey. Positional data here, arrival, departure, dockings, undockings, ETA changes, speed changes as well. If it changes its destination, I can be notified on that, and more information about things like bunkering, ship-to-ship transfers, so I can be notified on that level of activity. If I hit continue here, it's going to tell me which of these channels I want to receive the notifications through. I'm just going to click email for the time being. I'll hit continue, and now I can see the asset, the ship-to-ship transfer notification. Every time that this ship goes through a ship-to-ship transfer, I will receive an email that charges my account 5 credits, and I will hit save, and now that alert is active. I can easily pause it if I don't want to receive those notifications, and I can go and delete them or edit them to change the preferences, once I no longer have an interest in that vessel, and I'll just clear these out so I don't get any notifications. So if you want to track even more vessels, for example, you have a list of vessels, or as we would call it, a fleet of vessels. What you can do is I can go to any old vessel, either by name, IMO, whatever I want to do to search for it, and I can save it to a fleet, which saving it to a fleet helps organize your vessels of interest in a way that just makes it easier to pull data and visualize the positions of them. So if I were to save this vessel to a fleet, all I have to do is click add to fleet. I can select whichever fleet I want. For the sake of the demonstration, I'll do the first fleet here. So when I go back to the live map, and I'll filter back out the stations here, I'll go ahead and show just my first fleet, and I can see all of the vessels that I have saved to that fleet and their positions around the world currently. This helps for exporting data as well, because if you save your vessels to a fleet, it'll already pre-form a spreadsheet with those vessels. So under the Explore tab, and that's where you're going to be able to build all those spreadsheets out. I would just click my fleets, and from here, it'll automatically populate whichever fleet you make your primary fleet. And from there, I'm able to go ahead and change the columns to reflect whichever data points I find the most interesting, or the ones I need the most. Draft information for the tankers would be one of them usually. Origin port information, origin port country, and I can update that table. I can move these columns around to better suit my needs. And once I'm satisfied, I can go ahead and export that data as well and share those data points. So that'll allow you to track those movements, including the ETA data for when that cargo is expected to arrive. What we do on our end, as opposed to just a reported ETA, as I mentioned earlier, we provide a calculated ETA. So if I go to the CMA CGM Christophe Colomb here, I can see it's on its way from Shanghai, this is a container ship, to LAX. I can see it's moving 20 knots, pretty rapid speed. And I can see the reported ETA, which is provided by the AIS data of the vessel, input by the captain and crew. That's where, if you're looking at ETAs, you may find them to be a little less accurate, and that's just textbook human error. On our end, we calculate using the speed the vessel's moving and distance and time. You can see it's making up a lot of ground. It's arriving about 16 hours earlier than expected. And then what we do on our end also is calculate any congestion at the port level for a predictive ETD for when we expect this vessel to get into berth and start to discharge cargo, which you can see we're expecting this vessel to sit outside of Los Angeles for about 5 days. How we collect this data point is through our port conjunction. So what we do is we go to the port, and at the port level, we geofence out the anchorage, and then we go into the port and we geofence at each. I'll just do web for the sake of the demonstration. If a lot of congestion there on the time with the 4th week of 2023 was 1 day. The 5th week of 2023 was 2.5. And you can track trend analysis in the port to see how that's changed over time. Once you're in port, it's usually a day or two to discharge cargo, pick up new cargo, and get back on the way. So that wouldn't be included in the online service packages here. That would be an add-on. I do believe it's included in Global Satellite Plan. But the big differences you need to know about these are the amount of satellite tracking you have available. Again, without the Global Satellite Plan, you will need to toggle on the satellite coverage for the vessels that are outside of our terrestrial range, and you will be limited by how many you can have the satellite coverage on for. The historical data is another big selling point here. You get 365 days worth of historical data, playback, vessel events. Whereas professional, you only get a month's worth. And then global satellite, you get 365 days and 5 years of playback. What the playback function is basically our past track function. This will show you the vessel's movements over a specific period of time. You can customize how long that is by clicking the little wheel down here. And I can change this date range. So say I want to go back to, let's just do January 1. So I can track this vessel's positions all the way up till now. I'll go ahead and hit play. And what I can see is where the vessel's been, making its journeys throughout this time. Top of that, I can overlay different information, including the weather, as you see here. Route overview, different events. If there's nearby vessels, it's really useful, especially if you're tracking a tanker. You can see if they've been doing any ship-to-ship transfers. And then speed, MMSI, and you can just customize this here. So that's helpful for understanding trading patterns and vessels' general activity there. Our route forecast tool is similar, except forecasting its arrival into the next port. You'll notice we only get the next port call from these vessels. And that's because we don't pull the vessel schedule. We just take what they give us in the AIS. You can see here how you would toggle on and off the satellite. And then as I scroll in, let me clean up the stations here. As I scroll in, I can see when we actually forecast the vessel to be here. So we're expecting the vessel to get to this point on the 5th of April. So all the data you see here is also available via API. If I go under Solutions, click Data Services and APIs, I'll be able to see the different endpoints we have available. Basically, it's the same data. We just provide it in the data format JSON or XML. And from there, you're able to put that into your own systems, run your own analysis, do your own algorithms, machine learning, whatever it is you want to do with it. Just allows our clients more flexibility to ingest the data easier and build their own systems internally. So you can see we have voyage-related data, vessel positions up here. Events, support calls, other events like bunkering, ship-to-ship transfers. Vessel-related data, particulars, especially deadweight tonnage, the size. And then here's more voyage info in voyage forecast, expected arrivals at the port level, port distances and routes, predicted destinations, more analysis or forecasting on that side. So you're able to do all of that with any of these packages. Again, the credits, which you see here, are monthly. They will be reset at the end of the month, meaning if you subscribe to Global Satellite, once you have 600 credits, say you use 200 of them, you have 400 left. Once the month resets, it'll bring you back to 600. Those credits can be used on exporting data, as I showed you earlier, and creating vessel notifications as well. You can do for the whole fleet. If you build a fleet, you can create the notifications. You'll see here the amount of fleets you have available with each of those packages. You can have 50 vessels in fleets, 100 vessels in fleets, or 500 vessels in fleets. The different nautical charts you have access to, weather maps you'll have access to, port congestion you'll get with the global satellite plan, but not with the other packages. Custom areas you can draw out and you can create notifications for very easily just by going under here into my custom areas. You would just create it. You will polygon out an area, either using a circle, polygon, line, and you can make a description of that, and then you can set notifications for vessels passing through those areas, more general intelligence analysis for that specific area. And scrolling down more, the amount of exports you're allowed to do monthly. And then vessel particulars, notes, no advertisements, all included in all of those packages. And containerized trade, you can go here to my shipments. And what you can do is just add a shipment based off either a bill of lading, booking reference, or container number. And from there, you can track that specific shipment from a more holistic view. This system takes into account any congestion at the port level, any transshipment delays to forecast when the actual container is going to arrive. You can see we are expecting a 10-day delay on this specific shipment. The predictive ETA has it arriving on the 21st, where it was planned to arrive on the 11th. You'll see the vessel position down here in the Red Sea, the CMA, CGM, Pegasus. And then you'll see more events here, carrier related about the actual container. You'll see here when it's planned to arrive at the transshipment port, and then vessel arrives at the final port of discharge planned, and the date over here on the 21st. And we have a transportation plan here, which will highlight any sort of transshipments, any stops in the way, any sort of changes of vessels as well. We have a couple of sources providing this data. You can see if the data is conflicting, we won't populate it until the data lines up. Usually that's just due to a delay from one of the parties involved. Once all the data matches up, that'll populate. Usually takes a day or two, depending on who is the carrier, unfortunately. Some of the carriers are great at updating data, some of them aren't. Same thing with the tanker side, but the tankers are even less likely to provide a lot of data. And then you can see what that transportation plan looks like when it's all organized. So you can use that for without any of the subscriptions. It'll just be 100 credits per shipment. But if you need a subscription to that package, I can provide quotes on that as well. So that does it for the main functionality of the platform here. Just over here, you'll see additional layers, weather overlays, density maps, the playback tool, and then down here is our voyage planner. That's for owners and operators, so you wouldn't have access to that information. But can I answer any questions you guys have about anything here, or any sort of data that you think would be valuable to have access to that may be on the platform?
Yes, Matt, first of all, I want to thank you for this very comprehensive demo. There's so much information to digest. So I've got a lot of questions. I apologize if the questions seem silly, but obviously we're trying to new into this. So, gotcha. So first of all, one of the questions I'd like to ask is the cargo vessel. How do you know? Yeah. Is this something that the cargo, or do you actually have the manifesto? Is it quote something that the captain submitted, or the owner of the vessel? How do you know that the vessel contains the cargo that it claims to contain?
We don't. We have no visibility on if the vessel does have the cargo it claims to contain. You would have to track the vessel's movements, see which port it's calling into, and then make the assumption that it does. So that's not an area that we collect any data on. Like I mentioned, our colleagues at Kepler track commodity movements from a holistic view. But even then, I'm not sure if they have ownership of the cargo level data. Most people I've spoken with in the industry, even our direct competitors, won't have that level of data.
Okay, no question. Now you say obviously the lowest tier pay, you can track one vessel by satellite continuously. How's that different from the free service which I've been using, that I can just download the empty vessel number and track it myself, or multiple vessels? So why would the pay service only allow you to track one vessel?
You can see here, if I wanted to track this vessel, I'm not getting any information for it. You'll only pick up the information for it once it's close enough to our terrestrial network that we're picking up the data. So you can see here, AIS source is our Tanabe Bay operated terrestrial feed. If I go here, I'll see position received via satellite, and it's paywalled. So without a subscription, I apologize for the ads. We'll get rid of that just now. Without a paid subscription, you won't have access to anything going transatlantic, transpacific. As I can see here, I'm picking up the vessel data perfectly fine. And if I didn't have the satellite on for it, I just have a little toggle here to turn it on, and I could go ahead and do so. On top of that, you get all the additional bonuses that I mentioned earlier when looking at the online service solutions underneath plans and pricing. You simply won't have access to basically anything that's listed here unless you have a paid subscription.
Right. Another question, Matt. Now, the satellite, is that always on, or can the vessel turn the satellite signal off?
Vessels can turn their satellite signal off. It is very frowned upon. Typically, they'll do that if they're working in an illicit fashion, meaning they're calling into sanctioned ports, they're doing sanctioned ship-to-ship transfers. Usually, they will have the AIS on at all times. And typically, we pick up those positions every, I'd say, 5 to 10 minutes, depending on where it's located. So you can see here 14 minutes for this vessel. The South China Sea, which is one of the more difficult areas to track vessels because of the amount of vessel traffic going through a low area. The satellites max out for how many vessels, how many signals they can pick up. You can see 36 minutes ago. But then if I come over here into the Atlantic, it'll be 1 minute, 15 minutes, 15 minutes. So relatively frequently for the positions.
Thank you. Another question. Obviously, there's a lot of information on the vessels. I wasn't able to see everything. But will the vessel detail also include the insurance coverage on those vessels itself, or is that not included?
I highly doubt we have the insurance information here. I'll double check. But if I just go to vessel information under ownership and associated parties, you'll see some information, but I highly doubt you'll ever see insurance on the platform here. It's just not a data point we collect.
Okay, well, Matt, I thank you for answering all the questions that I have. Sam, is there any question that you would like to ask Matt?
None at this time.
Great. If you
Okay,
got
well, in that case,
any,
Matt, I want to thank you again most kindly for giving us this. This is a lot of information here. So as I said, I'm going to share this information with my colleagues globally that are involved in these various commodity trades. Like I said, predominantly right now in Africa and Asia, but we also have connectivity in South America that are related to these, but in other commodities beyond the oil and gas. So let me share the now. When we pay one prescription, is this one prescription per entity, per person, per company, or can multiple users of the same company use the platform?
So it would be per seat, meaning you'll have one user, one seat. We can't stop you from technically sharing that seat, but if somebody tries to log into it at the same time, it will kick one of them out. So I personally think everybody should have their own seat. This would be $119 per month if you decide an annual contract. The more seats you take, the lower the cost per seat is. So for 1 to 3 users, it would be $1,428 per seat, or $1,428 annually for Professional Plus. As that scales up, that price per user drops down.
And I assume we can go from different tiers, different months, as required, depending on our needs, or is it a fixed contract for the year or so?
So we could do quarterly contracts, annual contracts, or 6-month contracts. All of that will be affecting the price. The price listed here is if you sign into an annual contract, you get a discounted rate. So if you wanted to go month by month or quarter by quarter or every 6 months, the price would be a little more expensive, but you'd have more flexibility with the length of the subscription, obviously.
Well, excellent. Well, Matt, again, thank you. You give me and my colleagues a lot of thoughts on this. Your service is excellent. I can see that. And now I need just to speak to my colleagues and obviously see how this excellent service that you can provide us can contribute to our various commodity trade that we're trying to activate through our collective organization. And obviously I have your contact information, and you're obviously in New York, so that's actually, I'm in Hoboken, near neighbors, so obviously I'll contact you if there's any other questions that I haven't asked, or the colleagues of mine wants to answer. I'll contact you via email. But I think the demo that you give me has been very, very comprehensive, and I'll probably need to review this a few more times to digest all the information. So thank you again, Matt, and I appreciate all your time and effort. And I want to thank my colleague Sam for tuning in so early in the morning in Hawaii as well. So God bless you, Matt. Thank you very much again. And I'll send you a copy of this recording as well for your own reference. Okay?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
I would say,
thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate it.
Just before you guys go real quick, I would say maybe take a look at our colleagues Kepler, who focus more on the holistic view of commodity movements. So I'm just on their page here sharing the screen. Go check them out. If you're interested in a demo of what they have to offer, I'm happy to set that up as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you again, Matt. God bless you. Stay safe, everyone. All right.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. Have a great day.
Bye.